Tonight on Squirm Gear, I power wash dicks on public transport. Jova casually overthrows a banana republic in Central America. And Dwibs diverts off local streets to obstruct the channel tunnel in and out.
Hello, and welcome to Ridge Racer 64, the only game on the franchise on the system as far as I remember.
Namco did this a couple of times. There was, I think, Ridge Racer 6 is called. Is an exclusive for the Xbox 360. From what I understand, it was released temporarily for the backward compatibility program, but apparently now it's not available anymore.
And there's another interesting thing as well. This game wasn't actually developed by Namco. It was actually done by Nintendo Software Technology, a branch of their American division. And this game only released in the West. In fact, it only got a Japanese release recently through the Switch Online.
Dude, is the mascot even in this game?
Yes.
I think that's
there
supposed to
she
be
is.
her. I know relatively nothing about this game.
It's basically a combination of a bunch of stuff from the earlier games in a package in a N64 cartridge.
Also, I noticed.
So is this one of those quick cash grab games like, oh, let's get this series to this new console and whatnot. We won't even bother with a story mode.
No, there's no story mode in this game. That's why it's only two. Oh, here we go.
Hi, Reiko.
I get the idea these might have been just, them trying to compete with Gran Turismo.
Oh, by the way, get used to hearing that that intro. It plays every time you first go to the main menu after you finish a race, after you quit a race, when you start up the game.
Look at it in all its beauty. The N64 controller layout.
I still need to know who actually came up with that design. Because
literally someone who was on meth.
So yeah, this game came out in February/July of 2000 in North America and Europe respectively, and it was it was mainly handled by Nintendo Software Technology, as I mentioned earlier. In the past, they're still around to this day, and this is actually one of their first games. They were founded in 1998, and the same year this game came out, they did the Game Boy Color game Bionic Commando Elite Forces, Crystallis, another Game Boy Color game, and Pokemon Puzzle League.
Oh, so basically they were tasked to reconvert one of the Puyo Puyo games, or Pound the Pound, sorry.
And they also created the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series on the GBA.
So interesting way of multitask, because these are completely different games in genre and approach. It's kind of like Eurocom, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
Ooh,
and of course they handled.
Player.
Of course they handled the All-American exclusive, the BBC iPlayer channel for the Wii.
So, since you're clearly playing this on Switch instead, I'm guessing the controls are actually more bearable since they're being played on a controller that doesn't force you to have to hold 3 different prongs.
It's like...
Well, it's a little bit different when you're trying to map N64 buttons to a Switch controller.
Like, where am I supposed to stabilize the central part in my belly button or something?
And in case you're wondering, no, at the moment I don't have a Switch Online N64 controller.
So,
Squirm 5.
Wait, so do they automatically, adhere the controls to something for Switch, or do you have to do it yourself, basically?
I mean, you can adjust it yourself after.
Yeah, you
if
can
you want.
remap, if I remember correctly. Again, similar to all of these emulation backward compatibility program,
they give you GoldenEye. It makes a version of GoldenEye on there a bit easier to play.
It basically gives you, hi Pac-Man, it gives you basically the idea of remapping, also like Xevious, And rewind feature. I don't know if it's applicable to all of them, but all of them do have these kind of basic features just for the emulators, and the games themselves adapt to this accordingly. Also, yeah, I think you stretched a bit too much the screen, but I think after this match, Dwibs readjusted.
Yeah, I do correct it. But yeah, we can look forward to however minutes is the record.
I love how much this game emphasizes, look, it's Ridge Racer on Nintendo! It's Ridge Racer on Nintendo!
This one has a bit more voice acting than Type 4, if I have to be honest, compared to that one.
Okay, if
I
recall...
a bit more chatting in terms of a race.
If I recall correctly, the N64 technically was more powerful than PlayStation, but, for obvious reasons.
Architecture altogether, yeah.
Yeah. So I can get why this technically could work as a sequel and improvement over Ridge Racer Type 4, especially in what they could do technologically. I'm wondering if they ran into a lot of issues that the devs had with the N64, though.
You hear, as you can hear, the music for this game is a lot more Eurobeat inspired compared to Type 4, which is more of a mixture. This game's music was done by SCWRM, who dabbled quite a bit in composing work at this time, although nowadays is more known for being a producer and voice director at PCB Productions. Some of their more recent games included the Monster Hunter series.
Interesting.
Amongst others.
And honestly, considering, how popular Initial D became, in later down the years thanks to the internet, Eurobeat really does fit with this kind of genre anyway, so...
God, Initial D, what a project!
His most recent voice directing gig was in 2024, when he voice directed the English dub for Contra Operation Galuga.
It's a remake of the first game, either that or a reimagining of it.
Tio, did we ever get an Initial D video game?
I think there might have been a couple, but I don't remember, to be honest. I never bothered to check that much.
Yeah, if there are, they fell under my nose, which, again, I'd be so shocked if there's, legit no Initial D.
I still need to check that PS1 game that Squaresoft did back in the day, I think it's called Racing Lagoon, which mixes this genre with RPG elements. So I need to see what
of course.
About.
As for NST themselves, the most recent work was, the recent Switch remake for Mario vs. Donkey Kong, and they were part of the port development team for Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 for Switch.
So based off of how you're doing here, I'm guessing the gameplay's a little rough in this game?
Well, you can choose what kind of driving style you want. The original Ridge Racer Evolution, or the one I'm going to be doing for this playthrough, Ridge Racer 64, since, it's made for this game.
Appropriate.
So I'm noticing it's a bit more jagged. I'm guessing that's to sort of simulate how the control sticks could really move in the N64 controller, which...
Yeah, again, I don't have the controller. I'll probably get it at some point.
Why? Why torture yourself like that?
It's authentic.
Yeah,
I apologize to any stands. I apologize to any stands of that controller, but I'm gonna be honest. Once the nostalgia goggles go off, yeah, you really have essentially just a glorified collector's piece.
It says
it's
a lot
awkward.
that the GameCube controller, it still has its own set of problems, but it's a significant improvement.
Also, I don't know who the narrator is, but yeah, he does talk a lot more. Plus, his voice isn't as cool as the guy from Type 4, if I'm honest.
Novice, because you're right.
Give it another shot. Yeah, I know.
So, what's the reputation of this game in the fan base?
As far as I know, it exists.
A video game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Apparently, the announcer is someone called Michael Geen. often credited as Michael G.
I wouldn't be,
Let's
like I
see.
said, I wouldn't be surprised if for a lot of these games they do the arcade approach and have just someone a Western background that lives in Japan
It's
and knows speak English to do
well,
these kind of lines.
the race commentator is John Frost.
That might be a pseudonym because looking at
Oh no, I've checked behind the voice actors. Michael Gein did the original Ridge Racer in 1994, and John Frost did this one from 2000.
So what is the John Frosty tips has done?
In terms of behind the voice actors, the only other credits he's had were of Bug and Bug Poo! Exclamation mark.
I have no idea what those are.
90s
They're
games.
90s games.
That's kind of a short resume. What the hell happened to this guy?
Again, maybe
Uh,
just teach some basic stuff. I don't know. Also, 420.
Lays it.
Ow. You know, it's a
Yeah,
good thing that
yeah.
Street to
Games
12
change,
border,
but Dwibs' driving remains the same.
like a good
Gotta say,
Studio
Tio
Ghibli
has-
protagonist.
Gotta say, too, as far as our Squirm Gear episodes go, this one might be a bit one where our ride gets dinged up.
So the usual, you know. I guess this is where the Stig is actually pouting something.
I can't. Well, yeah. You see, this is what happened. This is how the Squirm Gear series ended. Not because of a fracas involving a lack of a hot meal, but I just go crazy on the road, and the producers couldn't handle the insurance fee.
Of course.
Looking at the road, I do notice a little bit of a hint that, they are more jagged with the turns. I think it's to sort of accommodate how the control stick on the N64 was kind of more rigid and all that.
Yeah, well, it was analog. I argue it wasn't as fluid as the one on PlayStation, so I can imagine it might have been, pain in the ass to handle this. Like, companies like Rare did manage to make it work thanks to DK64, the Banjo games, and Conker's Bad Fur Day, but, not everyone.
Yeah, I wonder why this game. Okay, so putting aside that this game was developed by a Nintendo of America branch, I wonder why this game didn't get a Japanese release until like much later.
It feels
Did
arbitrary.
they not have much faith in it?
Or it was really just a thing that Nintendo of America wanted for a Western release to compete with, again, stuff like Gran Turismo.
So maybe it's a case where America wanted it, but the Japan studio was
Did
like,
not care.
yeah.
It's worth noting that we need to remember one thing. Around this time, at least on the PlayStation, there were a lot more copycats of Gran Turismo, like, Destruction Derby and Colin McRae, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So, these particular kind of racing games with realistic looking cars and physics rules were much more common than they are these days. These days we do have stuff like The Crew, Assetto Corsa, and so on, so they are not gone completely, but they're much less than before.
So would you say that this game's relatively at least as beefy as Type 4, or is it notably lacking in content compared to what came before?
I mean, again, considering it doesn't really have the career mode from Type 4, I get if it's just a more simple, arcade experience, which is kind of a staple of the Ridge Racer games, let's be fair. Anyway.
Ooh, car customization.
2001
Green, my
Chevy
favorite
Highlander.
color.
Clearly, changing the color will help give you just the right angle due to the wind's resistance against the color dye.
I can blind, or I can just blind the other racers.
I mean, in some specific storytelling, like in Warhammer 40k, there are specific species that genuinely believe that if something is painted red, it goes faster. So.
Yes, Trevor?
Engravings don't improve your marksmanship.
Well, be thankful this game doesn't involve shooting. So yeah, racing games.
It's gonna be funny if we later do get a Metal Gear game where engravings actually do improve your marksmanship. Jesus, Dibs, what the heck?
I meant to do that.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dwibs. Was that fence too intact for your liking?
Dwibs was ripping
I hate fences.
A threat proper booth, so I was a bit distracted.
All joking aside, I'm guessing it's the steering being a bit more herky-jerk in this game compared to the last one.
Possibly.
Go on.
So, racing games on the Nintendo 64. There were a bit. I'm looking it up. There are a bit more than I thought there were, but there's not many of the more realistic kind.
No, there were stuff like Star Wars Pod Racing, of course.
Star Wars Pod Racing one, Mario Kart, obviously, Wave Race. I
forgot, was Rapid Racer...
Diddy Kong Racing.
Was Rapid Racer an exclusive for the PlayStation, or did it have a Nintendo 64 port? I forgot, let me check.
Rapid Racing, you say?
Rapid Racer. Oh no, it was a PS1 exclusive because it was developed and published by Sony. My bad.
Alas.
Yeah, but yeah, the N64 definitely had more arcadey style races compared to. Well, the PlayStation had a load as well, but obviously there's Gran Turismo.
And like you said, stuff like Destruction Derby and Colin McRae.
Well, there was a Wipeout game for N64.
Well, was there? I thought that was on.
Yeah. Wipeout 64.
Huh. I guess they ultimately acquired the rights later.
You wonder.
It was developed by Psygnosis.
Yeah.
I'm assuming did the other ones, and published by all people Midway.
Wow.
You have to wonder, was basically every N64 title having the number 64 at the end of it a stroke of genius or madness?
I call it stupidity, but sure.
Remember, there's a game literally just called Quest 64. It's a quest that you're playing on the N64.
Why do you think we renamed it?
I guess to be fair, the idea was brand recognition definitely tells people you're playing an N64 game, all right.
Round here it's called Holy Magic Century.
I forgot what it's called in Japanese, but it also has a different title in there.
Anyway, I mainly joke because, man, Nintendo have been spooked ever since the whole communications mishap with the Wii U. Ever since then, they've been dead set to make certain that you're aware you're playing this console this time here. No peripherals in sight, mister.
It's interesting as well. I mentioned Wipeout 64 earlier. That game was developed by the same people that did the other games, even though they were owned by Sony at that point.
Yeah, that feels strange. So maybe it was like a contract thing that they had potentially or something. I don't know.
And it was also one of those rare 64 games that had noticeable load times.
Maybe they were just not used to the tech.
Well, because it was maybe sound decompression.
Remind me again, instead of did Capcom manage to maintain the FMVs in Resident Evil 2 on the 16 and 64?
I believe they were, yes.
So it was one of those cases where whoever team developed the port did manage to work out with the architecture, again, hi Galaga, in order to preserve how the original was, even if by all accounts it might have not worked as intended. Yeah, this.
Alright, final race.
Yeah.
And I get this blue car with my awesome driving skills.
This looks more like a track from Outrun.
Also, I've noticed that they've taken a change from Eurobeat. This one sounds more jazz. Well, okay. Maybe not jazz, more like R&B, but still. God, it feels like it could be a shaft.
What game did you mention, sorry?
Resident Evil 2 on the N64.
Oh, yeah. I haven't played... Who knows? Maybe that game will eventually get a Switch Online release.
I mean, considering how Capcom is releasing recently the OG games and they're basing on the PlayStation versions, if that ever happens, it probably will be that instead.
I wonder... Okay, I forget if the N64 ones actually had a bit more polished graphics.
No, it was basically kind of the same. It did not even really have any new content as far as I know. The only thing that's being missed, again, it also will have some potential thing missing because if you remember, Resident Evil 3 has some minor bonus thing if you have a Resident Evil 2 save file in it.
Of course.
Is that? I guess 2 was the only N64 game.
Yeah, that's why it was weird. You think they will start with the first to an extent, but no.
I mean, to be fair, it was a great technical achievement.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, that was.
We're retiring already. What a shame.
Yep. That was Ridge Racer 64. Yeah, to be honest, it's just the more arcadey Ridge Racer, just for a console with a cartridge. It looks decent because apparently the N64 was a bit more powerful than the PlayStation, albeit you couldn't exactly fit a whole lot in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was like you could technically fit a good chunk onto that cartridge. The problem was they had to think of a lot of workarounds for that, or they would have to re-optimize the whole game for it.
This is why voice files tend to be more compressed, and why, for example, the characters in the Conquer games all speak, with that noticeable lower quality to them.
Or in the case of Daikatana, take them out completely.
Yeah.
The music it's fine. I mean, I get the vibe they were going for. Yeah, I grew up in Europe in the 90s. We were used to Eurobeat. Really, to be honest, what this game does, Ridge Racer Type 4 does a lot better.
Yeah. Honestly, I think it looks, plays, and sounds fine. That being said, even as a big Ridge Racer fan, assuming I had all the consoles at the time, I'd probably skip this. I guess, hey, if you're a Ridge Racer fan, but you're stuck on the N64 instead of the PlayStation, here was your consolation prize.
Yeah.
What I find weird is that it feels kind of, again, maybe calling it bare bones is a bit off, because to be fair, this was kind of the norm for games, but again, when you compare it to Ridge Racer Type 4, you do have to scratch your head and wonder, wait, why are we moving backwards?
In case you're wondering, yes, I'm aware that there is a version of this game that was a remake for the DS. I haven't seen it.
I think that one actually does have a story mode.
Alright, what about your final thoughts, Jova?
Like I said, it seems like a fair and fine enough installment. And look, maybe if this were like in the day and age when this game came out, probably would love it. Maybe. That being said, if I'm looking at it in the grand scheme of things, it's coming right off the heels of Ridge Racer Type 4. I get it. Different console, but still, I feel like at the very least you could have put in a story mode. You could have included this or that. And actually looking up the remake on DS, apparently they did, since there is a story mode about Reiko Nagase, who gets an Italian rival called Gina Cannavali, essentially. So Well, look at the bright side. They did apparently give us a remake, although then the N64 version is what we have on Nintendo Classics. My point is, it feels like a move of one step forward, 3 steps back, essentially. Yes, the graphics arguably look better, and the music is still good. It's just when it comes to a sheer amount of content, I do find it lacking given what it came after. That said, it's another feather in the cap of Ridge Racer, so in terms of being a new installment, it succeeded. Woohoo. I'll look forward to the DS version, thank you very much. Which, it's gonna be funny if this is kind of like how I feel about Mario 64 being overrated and the DS version being underrated. But again, I digress. Tio, what about you?
Not much to add. This is just okay, but much like with you, I agree that this is a case where the game is very mostly for people who have a Nintendo 64 and are fans of the series, but did not have a PlayStation. But even so, there were better alternatives, for you to look into. Like I said, I've never been particularly caring about this specific genre of racing. I mostly prefer the more zaniness of the kart type of racing than this. But I can see some hardcore Ridge Racer fan will have a basic enjoyment out of this. Nothing more, nothing less. It's a game that exists, could have been better, but as it is, it's serviceable.
Well, that was
again, yep, that terrible disappointment.
Yep, it's time to end. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time for
we'll see
something else. Good night.